The chronological Bible reading for March 27th is Joshua chapters 16 through 18. And as the land is continuing to be divided up between the tribes of Israel, we're seeing a concerning trend develop. The Israelites are either unwilling or just not capable of driving out completely the people who were in that land. But who are these people? Both Joshua 16:10 and Joshua 17:12 say it's the Canaanites. Who are these Canaanites? Well, do you remember the story after the flood of Noah when Ham went in and uncovered his father and then told his two brothers about it? It could be that that was actually a Hebrew euphemism to say that Ham castrated his father Noah. Now, we don't know that to be 100% true, but what we do know is no other children of Noah are recorded after that event, which is strange considering how many other men of that time are having all of these children and it's all being recorded for us. Noah was such a key figure in that story. And it's also interesting how Noah did not curse Ham for what he had done. He cursed Canaan. It's possible that Canaan was the representative of his son, of his father Ham. And so when Canaan did it, it was actually Canaan and not Ham. But regardless, Noah cursed Canaan in Genesis chapter 9. Canaan is cursed. He will be the lowest of slaves among his brothers. And so we see the fulfillment, maybe 1,000 years later, that the Canaanites are not driven out from the land and they become forced laborers. They become slaves. Now, we might say that's not fair. And slavery is not fair, but it's a lot better than being completely driven out. It's a lot better than being put to the sword, perhaps. And slavery back then was not like what we saw in the new American colonies and the early history of the United States, where slaves had no rights at all. Regardless, the people who were Canaanites chose to continue walking in accordance with the way their fathers walked, worshiping false gods, sacrificing their children to these gods. They were traders and merchants, and that in itself is not bad, but they were even merchants of people. They were traffickers. They were a wicked generation. And as with any people, God's curses only go until the person repents. And when the person repents, they gain access to a new level of faith-driven blessing that comes from the God who is creator of all and the one who loves every single person. In the New Testament, Simon Peter writes, God is not slack concerning his promises, but he is desiring that all men would come to a knowledge of the truth because he is patient. We know from the story of Rahab that even a prostitute in a wicked city can be redeemed, and not just her, but her entire family were saved by her fear of the great God Yahweh and his people. We know that Ruth was a Moabite woman, enemies of Israel, and yet she went with her mother-in-law back to the land of Israel and eventually became the grandmother of David, who was the king, the man after God's own heart. There's always an escape. God is always giving a way of redemption out for those who will choose it. And so as hard as some of these chapters are to read about driving the people out, slaying everybody, and then forcing into slavery those who remain, The overarching story of God's redemptive purposes still stands. God does not curse anyone without cause. We all have a choice to make. Every human who has ever lived has a choice to make. Will we submit to the God of this universe because it's His place and we belong to Him, and we are all going to get what we choose? We either choose God or we choose something else. But God is the one thing who will always remain. So as we read these chapters, let's focus on who God is, why He's doing these amazing things, and why He recorded these stories for us. And let's also make sure that we are completely and totally driving out all of the sin nature in our own lives. May we not continue to go down the road of mediocrity, of compromise, of being like the world we live in. Jesus said to be in the world, but not of the world. We need to be different. The way God set the Israelites apart, the way God set the Levites apart from the Israelites, will we allow God to set us apart for the sake of the nations around us? God bless you, my friends. Thank you for being on this journey with me. We'll see you tomorrow.